Hello, this is Miss Dagenford, and I'm wanting you to follow along with me in a drawing exercise. And this is going to be with your Jamboard that's titled Draw with Me on Photosynthesis. Now, this is going to be a combination where really we're just dragging and sorting shapes to draw a picture. But the idea is that by the end of this video, you will have several representation of what's happening as photosynthesis occurs. So the first thing we're going to do is just review the chloroplast structure. So let's draw a chloroplast. So on slide 1, you'll notice we have an outer and inner membrane. And then we want to draw our granum. So we're going to drag the circles that represent our individual thylakoids, and we're going to stack them together to create a grana or granum. And so we can do a couple of these just to indicate that there can be several of them. So the whole stack, so I'm going to go ahead and draw a little bit here. The entire stack is called the grana, whereas just one of these would be a thylakoid. So just one of these the green membranes would be a thylakoid. The granum would be the whole stack, and then we have our stroma, which would be all of the inside of the chloroplast. So anything I'm kind of shading in yellow. Now, that helps us practice our chloroplast structures. On the thylakoid, we're going to look at our light-dependent reactions. So the next slide, and you can hit pause. Let me go back here, and you can hit pause here. And so hopefully you've got your picture like this. Let's go on to slide 2. Now, slide 2 is going to be just one of these thylakoids. Now, over here, I colored the thylakoids green, but you'll notice I kept them black here because I want you to see what's causing them to be green. And that would be these photosystems. So join with me, and we're going to put a whole bunch of these photosystems in the membrane of our thylakoid, and that's what makes them overall green. Remember, these photosystems have chlorophyll. So as you're following along and putting the photosystems in the thylakoid, notice there's going to be many of these, not just the 2 that we saw in our slides. We see a whole bunch of these. And overall, that would give an overall greenish color to our thylakoid. That's going to be our that's what's going to give it overall a green color. Now, I did forget, I wanted to keep one to have like a key. So the green ones are photosystems. Now, together with our photosystems, we have electron transport systems. Now, the purpose of this diagram is just to help you place where everything is. Sometimes it's easy to mistake, like, what in the world are we looking at? So this is a thylakoid. And this thylakoid is going to be, remember, the place where our light-dependent reaction occurs. And it's going to have photosystems and electron transport systems. Let me put that one right there. And we'll keep one as a key here. And so all of these photosystems, and the sunlight's kind of already here. We don't really have to move the sunlight. The sunlight's going to come bombarding down onto these chlorophyll molecules, and they're going to be absorbing the light. And so we can move them kind of right above the chlorophyll molecules just to indicate that's what's absorbing the sunlight. So what else do we need to place as we build our thylakoid? And if at any point in time you need to hit pause, just hit pause. So the next thing that we want to add would be our ATP synthase. And so ATP synthase is also going to be in our membranes. And I'm just going to go ahead and insert them into our membrane. They kind of look like weird little mushroom dudes. All right, there we go. And I think I've got one more here. And I can sneak it in here. There we go. Now, the other point to this diagram is to kind of indicate just how many there are. You have, well, we have them, but in this case, we're looking at a plant, thousands of these little ATP synthase. And as we saw on the slide, these ATP synthase, what they're going to do is convert ADP, and let's do that right here. We'll put ADP, make sure we label it, and the phosphate, and we're going to convert it to ATP. Now, there's one last thing we need to add, and it's going to clear up our slides here. We're going to add our hydrogen ions, and so I got them all piled up here. And so let's go ahead and sneak them in, the hydrogen ions. I'll sneak one in there. Now, I made a whole bunch more than what you guys have, so I will probably have more in my diagram, but that's okay. I want to really emphasize it. You can sneak in more if you want. The whole point is that the inside of this thylakoid is going to contain our concentration of hydrogen. Now, remember our hydroelectric dam, as we're placing these, we're making a high concentration of hydrogen ions. They're going to want to diffuse out. And so if we gave them a way out, they're going to diffuse for that because there's a high concentration. And these ATP synthases are going to be the place where that happens. So let me go ahead and add an arrow here, and you can either add a shape or draw an arrow, but you got to be specific. Add an arrow going down through these ATP synthase, or in the case of the one above it, they're going outside that way. And the hydrogen ions can go through these little ATP synthase. And because these guys spin, they're just like a turbine in an electric dam. They're going to convert ADP and phosphates. They're going to be able to connect it together to make ATP. So there's one way to diagram our thylakoid, showing the placement of everything in it. Now, what is happening in our light, so go ahead and you can hit pause if you want to finish and make sure yours is right. Now on slide 3, we just want to label where everything goes. This is the diagram that we did on our Google Slides. So let's see if we can find some of the things. For instance, we have our sunlight. Here's our sunlight. I'm going to put it right there. And then we've got our photosystem 2. That's going to be our second arrow, photosystem 2, all of those chlorophyll molecules. And then we've got our electron transport system right here. Now, this diagram, we're going to focus on photosystem 2, which is the first one. I know, annoying. And then the yellow would be our path of electrons. Here's our ATP synthase. There we go. And then the high concentration of hydrogen are going to be inside the thylakoid. We can kind of stick them over here. And so while we have it here, notice I'm going to show you this little electron. And let me make that a little smaller here. This electron can is going to be in chlorophyll, and I'm going to show you while you're on this slide. This electron is going to get excited by light energy, and it's going to bounce from one molecule to the next molecule in the electron transport system. As it's in this middle one, it can pump hydrogens through. So you're going to see me do this several times, so it can pump hydrogens through. And then it's going to continue on and then go to the next photosystem. So again, you can hit pause and make sure that yours is the right. And then we're going to go on to slide 4. Now, mine's going to end up being a little messy, but let's do this step by step. So this is kind of what's happening to our electron. Remember in class I told you to remember 3 things. What's happening to the sunlight, what's happening to our electron, and what we can do with that electron. So let's go over that. So the sunlight is going to excite the electron right here. Now I can go ahead and add my electron, and notice, watch where my electron goes. Remember, the electron is going to go bounce, bounce, bounce. It's going to go down here, follow the path, boom, boom, and then it's going to get to NADPH. We'll put that in later. So let's go to the next stage. The electron jumps to the electron transport system. Again, so let's go ahead and put that electron, again, we can do another electron. Electron gets excited, bounce, bounce. Let's keep that one right here. As that electron, remember that electron has a lot of energy to it. And I like to add, sometimes I like to add a little exclamation point right here, because it's got a lot of energy. It's going to pump hydrogen through, and again, we're going to have hydrogen ions, which are basically positive charges inside. So we're going to have hydrogen ions inside. So let's go ahead and add our sticky note. Hydrogen ions can get pumped right here. And then hydrogen ions are going to then want to diffuse. Oh, sorry about that. Hydrogen ions are going to want to diffuse through our ATP synthase. So hydrogen ions diffuse. And ADP is going to be made into ATP. Now be careful, the hydrogen ions are not turning into ATP. That's a very common misconception. The hydrogen ions just power the ATP synthase. So we're not losing the hydrogens. They diffuse through. They're just being used to convert ADP into ATP. Now this electron will continue moving on, and again we can make another NADPH. Now where are these electrons coming from? Well, water is getting split into hydrogen ions, electrons, and oxygen. Now the oxygen just ends up leaving, so there's our oxygen gas just leaves. We don't care about that, but the electrons are going to replace the electrons lost, and this keeps happening. So electron gets excited by sunlight, boom, boom, as it hits this middle one, hydrogen ions get pumped through, and then boom, boom, gets excited by sunlight again, and then we make NADPH. So that helps us hopefully practice our diagrams.